Yeah, I don't want to call. We'll put it in somewhere. Well, good morning. Please sit. I'm Reverend J. Wolin, the settled minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Sarasota. It is great to be with you here this morning. I especially want to welcome those who might be visiting us, both here on campus as well as online. And if you would like to get more information about the church, you can sign on our website. There's a button near the top to get our newsletter, or we have a table right outside the sanctuary to sign up to get more information. You're welcome to attend any events at the church, and there's always coffee and dessert to get to know each other after the service. Thank you for being here with us. And this morning we have just a couple of announcements, and the first from our president, Bill Payton.
Good morning. So I have two announcements. The first is that it became obvious to us during last week's workshop with Paula Cole-Jones that perhaps we should have a town hall meeting to help to give you all a chance to interact with the board and with Reverend Wolin and Roberta. And we're going to discuss topics such as the budget, which we'll be talking about somewhat today as we talk about pledges. And we'll have a chance to talk about the name change and any other situations, answer questions the best we can. And that town hall meeting will follow the second service 2 weeks from today. So put that in your calendars, please. So this is our official kickoff week for our stewardship campaign. Hopefully this was not news to you, because I hope you got a letter in the mail this week. And Joan Bennett is the chair of the stewardship committee, and she could not be with us today, but she wanted to speak to you anyway.
Hello, I'm Joan Bennett, and I'm head of the stewardship campaign this year. There's a lot of excitement going on at our church. Reverend Wolin has been here for 6 months, and we have 60 new members plus many new friends. Word is getting out about our involvement in the community. Reverend Wolin has introduced thought-provoking classes. We've become so much better at advocating for our beliefs, and many of us are participating in these efforts in the Sarasota area. But we can do more. It's time to increase our pledges so that we can do more. Money talks, and we need to increase those pledges because we need a communications coordinator, we need to keep up with inflation. Our committees have developed urgent goals. So fill out your pledge card, increase your giving as much as you are able. Our goal this year is for a 20% increase in pledge funds. We can do this and more.
Thank you, Joan. So I told this story about 6 years ago in front of the congregation, and if you were here then, I apologize, but I'm going to tell it again. In 2001, I walked into the ER at the University of Missouri Medical Center, and they said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Well, I just don't feel right." And while the doctor was talking to me, I slipped onto the floor in cardiac arrest. So they zapped me 6 times, or 4 times with the paddles and revived me. And then I coded a second time, and they zapped me another 4 times. And the next morning, the doctor said to me, "Bill, you were dead on the table twice." Now, why am I telling you this? Well, the message I have for you today is so important. I've come back from the dead twice to tell you. You just heard Joan kick off our pledge drive, and she is not afraid to talk about money. And she asked me to say a few words because I'm not afraid to talk about money. I like talking about money. I like talking about your money, and how it could become our money. So she ticked off several items that are reasons we have an increased budget, and we're looking at a budget increase this year of about 23%, as we have not totally refined the budget yet. But we have certain important issues that face us. One is advocacy. You know, there's a lot going on right here in Florida. There's a lot going on right here in Sarasota and Manatee counties. We'd like to have a new communications coordinator, and that's important for a couple reasons. One is that we have pledged to hold every meeting either live or online, so a multi-platform presentation of all of our meetings. And it's also important in a virtual world that we get our message out, and so a media coordinator, communications coordinator helps us get that message out. And you know, you can tell just from reading the paper this week, that's a very important function. There's the subject inflation. You're all familiar with that. And we have growing pains. We've added 61 new members, as you just heard Joan say. As membership grows, it puts a strain on our current staff, and we need to think about future staffing. So think about all of that as you talk about or think about what you're going to pledge. You know, last year, if you were here, I tried to guilt you into a bigger increase, a bigger donation. And it just sort of worked. We got a 14% increase in our average pledge last year. So if guilt works once, let's try it again. For churches our size, 400 members or more, we have the second lowest average pledge in the country. So we don't like being at the bottom of anything. So let's work on that. Let's get it up. Joan has asked you for a 20% increase in pledge. I'm willing to compromise. We'll take 25%. Anyway, our campaign slogan is "We can do more," and with your help, we really can do more. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And I think we'll be calling on that story around Easter time also. Just a couple of other quick announcements. The Art Council, there's a new exhibit in the Lexow Gallery right across from the sanctuary, including mosaics, paintings, jewelry, and fused glass created by Gail Kobick, one of our members. And so please stop by after the service today for the opening reception where you can meet Gail. And as well, if you've not paid for your auction items yet, you can do so. There's an auction table out there. Hopefully it'll be out there after the second service. And now it is my great pleasure to invite back and reintroduce Passerine, our special musical guest today. Yeah, let's give him a round of applause.
A tune by one of our favorite practitioners of our type of music, Old Crow Medicine Show.
Show you a castle. show you an ocean, stars just like diamonds shining above. Where the heavens are beaming and all the world's dreaming, it's everlasting and ain't it enough? Ain't it enough to live by the ways of the world, to be part of the picture, whatever it's worth? Throw your arms round each other and love one another, for it's only one life that we've got. Ain't it enough? Ain't it enough? Ain't it enough?
Our opening reading today comes from the Reverend William F. Schultz, who is formerly the head of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Come into this place of peace and let the silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its vision change your heart. Now please join me and join George in lighting the chalice. As we learn a UU value from the proposed Article 2, I invite you to join and speak it with me. As we light this chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalism, we explore the value of generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality.
Good morning. So today's story is a well-known parable, and you will probably figure out which story it is. But this is the South African version of the story with an adaptation by yours truly, me. Quill Soup by Alan Durant, illustrated by Dale Blackennar, and adapted by me. So, Noko the porcupine was hungry and tired. He had been traveling from his own country that was being torn by war. He had walked through the valley of 1,000 hills and hadn't eaten for days. At last, he saw a small village ahead, and his spirits lifted, knowing that food and a safe place to rest may be at hand. Meanwhile, in the village, the animals caught sight of Noko. "There's a stranger coming," squeaked the monkey. "No one like this animal has ever been here before. Quick, run into your homes." So Noko trudged into the village. It was silent and empty. "Hello," he called out, but there was no reply. That's strange, he thought, and he went to knock on the door of the first home. Tap, tap, tap. Warthog poked out her head. "What do you want?" "I have traveled a long way fleeing from war, and I am hungry. Do you have anything I can eat?" "No," said Warthog. "I just ate a big lunch, and I have no leftover food. Now be gone with you." Wow, thought Noko. But he was very hungry, so he tried the next home. Tap, tap, tap. Rabbit answered the door. "Please, I need some food," said Noko. "Well, so do I," said Rabbit. "Do you know how many mouths I have to feed? And on top of that, my greedy brother just came to visit and ate all my food. Let me tell you." No, said Noko as he backed away. "It's quite all right. I will try elsewhere." And as the door slammed in his face, Noko thought, "Whew, that was a close escape." So Noko knocked on Aardvark's door, and then at Meerkat's house, and then at Pangolin's house. And at each house, he got a story of how there was no food to be had. So Noko continued to trudge along, and he suspected that the villagers might be lying to him. I mean, when he looked around, he saw lots of gardens with ripening food, and everyone seemed to be well fed. So Noko came to the last house in the village, and he knocked. "Yes, what is it?" called out the monkey. "I have traveled a long distance fleeing war, and I am hungry," said Noko. "Well, too bad. We're a poor village," Monkey grumbled, "and we don't have any spare food." But as Monkey said that, Noko saw through the window a box clearly marked "spare food." So he knew that was a fib. So he cleverly told the monkey, "Oh, no worries. I can make my own food if you're able to lend me a pot of water." "Huh?" Monkey thought, and he was so completely taken off guard, he immediately said, "Sure, I can do that." So Noko made a small fire while Monkey and his crew fulfilled their promise of a pot of water. And after Noko put the pot on the fire, he reached back and he plucked 3 quills from his back, and he tossed them into the pot. "I am making quill soup, a favorite of the king of the jungles," he told the gathering crowd, who was watching him and wondering what in the world was he doing. Aren't they a little too hard and pointy to eat?" said Warthog. "Oh, no," said Noko. "Just wait and see. They just soften up, and they release this most delicious flavor. You're going to love it." So as the water began to boil, Noko took a sip of the broth. This is tasty, but it seems to be missing something." "Well, you know what? We need carrots. It would be so much better if we had carrots." Well, of course, Rabbit's ears shot up, and he was torn between keeping his carrots or tasting a soup that was good enough for a king. So he finally blurted out, I think my greedy brother may have left a carrot or two," and he hopped away to fetch them. So Noko added the carrots to the soup, and then he tasted it again, and he asked for another ingredient he suspected the villagers had squirreled away in their home. And he did this until everyone in the village had contributed to the soup. So as night draped the land and the aroma of the soup filled the village, the crowd looked on with their bowls at the ready. And Noko raised his paw for silence, and he said, "Today, when I came into your village, what did you see?" he questioned. "A stranger. Someone who looked scary. I thought you were bringing trouble to our village." And on until a small voice in the back said, "Someone who was in need." "Yes," replied Noko. "I was hungry, but your fears kept you from seeing me as one of you, an animal worthy of your help." Well, of course, with those words, the crowd's eyes fell, and you could feel their embarrassment and their chagrin over their actions. So Noko spoke up again, "But as you watched me make the soup today, each of you lost your fears, and each of you contributed to this soup that is fit for a king because you are all kings. We have created a fantastic soup for our community to share, and it is wondrous." And with that, the crowd cheered and gathered around, and just as they were getting ready to dip their spoons into the soup, Noko again exclaimed with a wink, "Wait! I must take out these quills because they are much too hard and pointy to eat." So I'm sure you figured out which story that was. And it's all about giving and not allowing our fears to stop us from being part of our community. So now I invite our younger youths to join me in the West Wing for more fun and activities as we explore embracing our differences. Thank you.
I think this next song is fitting after that story.
Yeah.
Don't worry, that thing.
Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing. Every little thing is gonna be alright. Woke up this morning, smiled at the rising sun. Three little birds on my doorstep, singing sweet songs, melody pure and true. This is my message to you. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Take it alright. This morning, smiled the rising sun. Three little birds on my doorstep, singing sweet songs, melody pure and true. This is my message to you. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's gonna be alright. No, don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's gonna be alright. We're not worried about a thing. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Every little thing's gonna be alright.
The future, can you hear me? The future is uncertain, but I can imagine. I can imagine a community shaped by our principles and values. I can imagine people coming together to overcome the hatred in our midst. I can imagine people growing older together, growing spiritually nourished, growing relationships, growing in purpose. We just need to seed the field and watch the beauty grow. So as we take a time of silence now, I invite you to imagine the future of this church. So for my first reflection, I'd like to share a story with you this morning by Rabbi Lawrence Kushner called To Give and to Receive. A long time ago in the northern part of Israel in a town called Safed, the richest man in town was sleeping, as usual, through the morning religious services. Every now and then he would almost wake up, trying to get comfortable on the hard wooden bench, and then he would sink back into a deep sleep. One morning he woke just long enough to hear the chanting of the Torah verses in which God instructs the children of Israel to place 12 loaves of bread on a table in the ancient wilderness tabernacle. He nodded off back to sleep, and when the service ended, the wealthy man woke up. He thought that God had come to him in his sleep and had asked him to personally bring 12 loaves of bread to God. Now, the rich man felt honored that God should single him out. And of all the things God could want from a person, 12 loaves of bread did not seem very important, but who was he to argue? He went home and baked the bread, and upon returning to the synagogue, he decided the only proper place to place the bread for this holy gift was alongside the Torah scrolls in the ark. So for those who have never been in a temple, in Judaism, the first 5 books of the Bible are called the Torah, and they are kept in a pulpit area called the bima, in a very ornamental closet called an ark. Anyway, he carefully arranged the loaves and said, "Thank you, God, for telling me what you want of me. Pleasing you makes me very happy." And then he left. And no sooner had he gone than the poorest Jew in town entered the sanctuary. All alone he spoke to God. "Oh Lord, I am so poor. My family is starving. We have nothing to eat. Unless you perform a miracle for us, we will surely perish." And as was his custom, he ascended the pulpit area and he opened the ark. And there before him were 12 loaves of bread. "A miracle!" exclaimed the poor man. "I had no idea you worked so quickly." Thank you for answering my prayers." And he ran home, shared the bread. Minutes later, the rich man returned to the sanctuary, curious to know whether God ate the bread. Slowly he ascended the pulpit area, opened the ark, and saw the bread was gone. "Oh my God, you really ate my bread. I thought you were teasing. This is wonderful. You can be sure I will bring back another dozen loaves next week with raisins." The following week, the rich man brought a dozen loaves to the synagogue, left them in the ark. Minutes later, the poor man entered the sanctuary. And again, "God, I don't know how to say this, but I'm out of food again. 7 loaves we ate, 4 we sold, 1 we gave to charity. But now nothing is left, and unless you do another miracle, surely we will starve." He approached the ark slowly, opened the doors. Another miracle. 12 more loaves, and with raisins too. This is wonderful. And so this bread exchange continued week after week for many years. And like most rituals, it became routine. Neither man gave it much thought. Then the rabbi, one day, detained in the sanctuary longer than usual, saw what was happening. He watched the rich man come in and then the poor man come in. And so he called the two of them together, telling them what had been going on. "I see," said the rich man sadly, "God doesn't really eat bread." "I understand," said the poor man. "God hasn't really been baking bread for me all along." And then the rabbi asked them both to look at their hands. "Your hands," he said to the rich man, "are the hands of God giving food to the poor. And your hands," the rabbi said to the poor man, "are the hands, also the hands of God receiving the gifts from the rich. Continue baking and continue taking. Your hands are the hands of God." End of story. So I love this story. It's instructive on so many levels, which is what a good story should be. The first and most important lesson in this story is never to fall asleep in church, okay? I like the fact that the poor man gave away one of the loaves of bread to charity, right? It was the understanding, really, of gratitude for the gift and recognize that there were others who were in more need than they were. Now, on one level of the story shows us how our perceptions can deceive us, right? But on another level, it also shows us how the myth, sometimes we need these myths to help guide us to do the right thing. And yet on another level, it shows us that with the awareness of truth, we can choose to be in relationship with others. We can choose from our own free will to give. We can choose to do the right thing. For when we clear away the myth, right, we are enriched by the giving of ourselves to something worthy. And we are enriched by the receiving of gifts of others. It is a reminder that we are not alone in this world and on our journey, but that we have been brought together by whatever forces to share our journey together with each other. As well, what I liked about the story was just the powerful moment that it created for the two characters. And also showed the danger of how rituals can become routine and expected instead of being constantly renewing and providing growth for us. So this coming week, I ask you to reflect. Reflect on how this church has been meaningful to you. Reflect on how this church can be meaningful to you as you engage in the life of the church. Last night, a number of you came together in celebration with a spirit of generosity, with a spirit of hope, a spirit of community, a sharing of music, and a sharing of stories, a community where we walk together on our journey. And as we walk on the journey, I ask you to continue baking by giving of your gifts and continue taking by being enriched by each other and being enriched by this church. Do not let your giving become routine. And I am not just talking about your pledge and donation, though we'll get to that, but how we spend our time, right? How can we be generous, right? Not routine, right? How can we be generous? How we spend our time, how we share our talents with each other. And yes, also additionally, on giving money to the church, where your hands, all of our hands, are the hands of love, the hands of compassion, the hands of justice. Right? Your hands make real the mystery and the wonder in this church and in the world. Do not let your giving become routine, including your pledge. And so as we take our offering, I ask you to practice this art of ignoring routine and increase what you normally give to the basket as we take our offering, and just see how good it feels to give, right? Knowing that you are helping the world. So please be as generous as you can. If you want to give online, there's a button on our YouTube page on how to give, and we ask you to be as generous as you can. Let this sacred time begin. Our next reading is from the Buddhist teacher Sylvia Bornstein. Generous acts are a relief because they connect. They're always in relationship. They can't be isolated. The Buddha said, we all have something we could give away, as including, in addition to material possessions, companionship, comfort, encouragement, care. I think about realizing how the act of giving wholeheartedly, whatever one has to give, does not diminish one's resources, but can be life-saving to both the receiver and the giver of the gift. And now one more time, we get to hear the gift of music by Pastor Ian.
Can you step down here? Thank you so much for having us. Happy Sunday. I love Jay Wolin. Thank you. Your words are so inspiring.
Morning has come with the first rays of sun breaking through our window pane. Songs fill the air, but there's no singer there, just an old wooden guitar playing. Writing a song won't take very long, trying hard not to use the word old. Thinking about taking chances
So the theme of this year's stewardship campaign is we can do more. And we can do more, but not just for more's sake. It's important to consider why we do what we do. Now, I remember when I was in the business world and I'd get hired, and actually, truthfully, in churches too, but I would go in and I would always ask people, so why are you doing what you are doing? And I would always tell them, the only answer you cannot give me is because that's the way we've always done it. Or I've heard that a lot. And there may be a good reason why it's always been done a certain way, but sometimes it just becomes routine. And so it's important to know why we do this. This was epitomized to me once when I went in and this person said, oh, I don't know, I was asked to do this report for Vice President X. And then I realized that Vice President no longer worked for the company. And so I went to the Vice President who replaced them, and they said, oh, no, I throw that report out every time I get it. And I said, well, why didn't you say anything? Well, I thought someone else was using it as well. And so this person had been creating this report every week for years that no one used, right? So it's important to consider what we do and to make sure that with each action we take, we should consider how it serves the values of our church and the church that we hope to be in the future. We should look at everything with fresh eyes, with open eyes, as the Buddhists would say, beginner's eyes. And I would also say with everyone's eyes, not just our own, because we all tend to just see things from our own perspective. And so we ask you to widen the lens of your vision and perspective. Let us choose to see a broader vision for our church. Let us choose to see a bolder vision for ourselves as human beings as well as for our church. Let us use our imagination and imagine what it could be like to live in beloved community. And then let us go forth together and not just imagine, but to build that beloved community, one thought at a time, one relationship at a time, one action at a time. We are the one religion that allows you to explore wisdom from multiple sources to make meaning. We have a message of love, compassion, and justice, a message that is sorely needed in the larger community. And so to further the goal of sharing our message, we are putting in our budget, as you heard, a new position of communications coordinator. And this position, along with a budget request for publicity, will help our message and values reach other people in our community who have never heard of us. I don't know how often I have heard from people who walk in our doors that they never heard from, they wish they had known about us for years. And so I almost feel sometimes like that's a failure, right? If these people are looking for us and can't find us, we need to let them find us. We need to seek them out. And I tell those people it is never too late. No matter when you find us, you have found us. And it's never too late. But with your help, we can do more to better communicate our events and our values, both internally and externally. I'm enthused that our racial justice team is so active. The participation in Interweave, our LGBTQ team, has been increasing to the point they can no longer fit in people's homes. They're going to be meeting in the church here. More recently, we created a green team, a reproductive justice team. And each of these teams have requested a budget to create programming and advocacy work in our church and the larger community. And with your help, we can do more. When I arrived in August, we had 2 children active in our religious education program. Last week, we had 16 children. We've added a family chalice group. No, it's you. You make them feel welcome here, and we are intentionally trying, and you budget. So we have a religious education coordinator that helps run a program that when people show up, that they know they feel welcome. We do. I know not all of you like the Story for All Ages, but many of you do. And that is a message to families when they walk in, that there is something for their children here, right there, the first time they walk in. And it's these intentional programs that we are doing. And I tell you, because families and children need Unitarian Universalism's message and love as much as anyone else. We have made great strides in short time, but with your help, we can do more. We have a large small group ministry program and other programs that connect members, that help deepen their relationships with themselves and to what they may consider the divine. I mean, every new member, we just had a new member, getting to know you class Saturday. And each of them, right, almost every single new person says, well, they're looking for a place to connect in this community. And so, I think even it was just last week I said Unitarian Universalism has a theology of relationship. And I believe it is in the building of relationships that we build the beloved community. And with your help, we can do more. We have expanded our musical offerings this year. I acknowledge this has been unsettling for some, but if we are truly wanting to be welcoming to all people, then we must provide different experiences to reflect the diversity that we hope to be. Right, this past year we held our first solstice service in a while. We had 93 people attend that. And this shows me that there is a need for different worshiping program than just a typical Sunday morning to serve the pluralistic theological needs of the diversity of our membership. And with your help, we can do more. So my question to you to think about this week, this year, the rest of your life, right? What do you envision for this congregation? Because it really does come to you. It comes from you. Maybe a UU theater group, who knows, as putting on original performances about socially conscious topics. While others in the larger community want to censor ideas, we can maybe be a gathering place for people of all ages to explore new and different theological ideas. As members get older, what pastoral and religious needs and education will they need? We can be a religious learning center for all ages. And not only for the congregation, but for the larger community. Let's expand our vision. We can be nurturing and mentoring for all people, allowing them to reach their fullest potential, whatever that may be, at whatever stage of life they are in. Do we look at ourselves as just a sort of liberal oasis in a conservative desert? Or are we a shining light that can draw others to us so that all can journey in the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, which we say every week here? Can we lead to creating a community so that the values we stand for can one day be integrated into the larger community's life? Let us be that voice of reason, a voice of love, a voice of religious freedom that all can hear in all corners of Sarasota. And now I stand before you today. I have been your minister since August. Ours is a shared ministry, right, where we work together as a community to determine our missions and our values. We do not get directives from some bishop or an ancient book. The Unitarian Universalist Association offers guidance and religious resources which we are free to avail ourselves of. But all of us work together, supporting and being supported by each other. We as a church and a religion can do great things together, and we have already done great things together. But we can do things more together than we can ever do alone. So now is the time to stand together. we have a strong foundation to build from. And this is a good thing about doing 2 services sometimes. Like after the first service, I got a little critique about my sermon. And so I told them, unintentional, like, yes, we have a very strong foundation to build from. Like, they think I'm only looking to the future, but we have built something special here. I just want to acknowledge that. Maybe I didn't acknowledge that as much in the first service. We are the largest Unitarian Universalist church in the state of Florida. And that is something to be proud of, because you have welcomed that and you have built that. But it can't just be for us. We have to continue building it for other people. We have a long history in Sarasota, a history of raising families together, right? This church was actually started by young families coming together. We have a history of building relationships, a history of offering liberal religious education, a history of working on important social justice issues in the community. Let us continue to build upon this mountain that we have started. With your help, we can do more. Let us build that beloved community where all people are welcome, where all people will have the opportunity to build relationships, where all people have the opportunity to participate. But to do this, we need you. We need your participation, we need your leadership, we need your love, and yes, we need your generosity. The stewardship team asked you to consider giving 20% more this year. And I always say to people, we ask you to be as generous as you can. People have different circumstances in their life, and there's never a judgment as to what people give. But we do ask you to be as generous as you can. And I ask you to consider pledging more to this church than you do to any other donation you make this year to any other organization. We value this church, all its members, and the values we share. It is a significant part of our lives. So please pledge to support our programs that demonstrate our stated values. I know with your help, we can do more, and we will do more. May it be so. Please rise in body and or spirit for our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Our closing words are the words of Faya Bishaya. Take joy in your giving. You not only enrich your soul, you also enrich all of creation. Giving is a simple act that becomes a great occasion, for the benefits are incalculable. Please join me in extinguishing our chalice, and the words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you all for your presence here today. Thank you.